Hello, everyone. I'm Mahalakshmi Srinivasan, and if that's a mouthful, ML, as I'm commonly known, the CEO of Indicia Worldwide APAC. And I'm delighted to be talking to Branka Markovic, the Global Category Manager Activation, Print, and POSM at Nestrade on the occasion of International Women's Day. Branka, thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely. Remember, Branka, we actually started talking about women leadership in this industry, and leadership in particular, and how much it can influence others, and how it creates, a voice for other women, aspiring women leaders. And I really enjoyed, our conversation since then, and it's been a while since we spoke. So it just feels very organic in terms of getting back in front of you and hoping to chat a little around International Women's Day.
Indeed, this topic has come up several times during our professional meetings, and it seems it comes naturally. So, a pleasure to have more focused discussion today as well.
Absolutely. So we do work very closely, Branka, on as your partner in achieving Nestrade's marketing objectives. But today we are going to not talk about that. We are going to start with why is it important to you to mark International Women's Day?
Well, this is being marked for many years now, and it's became really on the agendas of all major companies, and Nestle is one of them, of course. And I'm happy to work in the company that acknowledges this and marks this day, and that this is on top of the agenda of the company I work for. But for me personally, the journey has started long time ago, and we are progressing every year, but it's never too much to to mark this day and to mark this topic and to bring awareness and make that additional step forward. um, and mainly it's because I think there are so many biases still going around, and there are and those biases are so diverse. So it's not only
Mm,
about one bias being it's so many biases that come across. For example, the one that immediately come to our mind, I think still there is like maybe a bias that does a woman need to be more like a man to be a leader? So that's one of it. It's very a basic
exactly.
one. So like it's even a funny one, right?
Yeah.
Then are women really too emotional? Because that's one of the biases, that women are very emotional. So how does this affect us?
Yeah.
And then I think the newest one that I hear also a lot with my colleagues and women colleagues and peers and even women leaders is, you know, are we taking this to the level that we are being promoted because we are women now? So it's kind of the opposite to what we would like to. So many biases are around there. I think it's important to continue talking about it, to mark this day not only on the day but also all year round, and to work on this topic.
Absolutely. And you've touched on some really good points there that, we as women have experienced. I think stereotypes, what becomes like often people ask me, as I've shared with you before, as a female CEO, how do you balance work and domestic life? And nobody asks that of a male CEO. So you're right. I mean, as women in leadership roles, we are often held to a different standard. And is there pressure to try and confirm to what is expected of the stereotype of a leader, regardless of the role. And yeah, absolutely, diversity for the sake of diversity actually works against us, as you said, right? It is really counterintuitive to what this powerful platform that started more than a century ago is trying to build, the kind of unification of our thoughts and actions to drive genuine diversity on the basis of gender and parity.
So true, and I think it all comes down to what kind of environment the company sets for women and not only women
Exactly.
leaders, but all
Mm,
women in the
mm,
company and beyond that. And I think um, it comes down to that. For me personally, what makes a difference
mm,
is that I
mm,
feel respected and I feel supported. And I
mm,
feel support, especially important, being supported by the male leaders. And that comes
mm.
down to how do we still balance our domestic, work and our
Responsibilities.
responsibilities that we have, and we all have plenty of them. And
Mm,
I think today it's really important that I think our male colleagues, male leaders, and in general environment in the company, that it's okay to have those
mm,
responsibilities, and
mm,
that we are allowed to have them. We are allowed to, to take time to fulfill them as well,
mm,
and that we can have a lot of flexibility around how do we balance those two
mm.
areas. So the professional life, and then that private life, and what all that it means being a woman,
Yeah.
in a domestic responsibilities, etc. So I think the flexibility that the company offers and the environment, that it's okay
Mm,
to have that time that you need to go and pick up your child at school, or go for a parent meeting, or that
mm.
you maybe you have some other, that you can actually make more flexible that workspace, helps a lot. Helps a lot. But two
Absolutely.
key words are really the respect and support.
Mm, mm. Brilliant. You've just kind of hit the nail on the head there. So, as a business leader, talking about workplace, how do you kind of champion that diversity and encourage, support women in the workplace?
I would say that the key thing is to listen and understand.
Mm,
And this is where, for me personally, this is where it all starts. If I can listen to my female colleagues, and understand what is maybe the fears or the biases they are, encountering, or what are those blockers that they might have, then I can support them in that, and I'm trying to support them and to be there,
mm,
the ear and the shoulder to lean on if needed. But also we need to be aware, I think, that maybe younger colleagues who are not yet on those positions will look up
mm,
to you, and they will see how you behave as a
mm.
woman in that position, and
Yeah.
what are those steps that you are taking. And but also very important, we should not be shy to share that we all have our own challenges, that we are not, and this is coming back to the beginning of the conversation, do we need to be like men to be the leader, to be in
Yeah.
the leadership positions? No, I think,
Yeah.
and that's important to share also with the peers and
Mm.
colleagues, um, and to vocalize the journey that we ourselves had.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think having role models is so important because if I think back 20 years, it would have been amazing to have a female role model to look up to and definitely kind of being able to give that support as a female, as a woman lead, a woman in a leadership position, to be able to show them that, look, it's possible. And you're absolutely right. I think, I know you touched on it earlier and you said, people often remark, oh, women, are they too emotional? But I think we can demonstrate how we use emotions and turn it into strength, which is empathy. Because the world over, what we are lacking generally is empathy. And I think we can turn that into a strength, and as role models, set an example, as you said, for all women in our workplace, women in our personal lives, whoever need that kind of encouragement or support, right? Yeah.
One of the key messages for any colleague, um,
Mm,
and it's not only professional, right? Because
yeah.
also in our a private space,
Yeah.
we have many challenges, and we have many conversations with our
Mm,
friends, with our
mm,
acquaintances and the people we come across. I think the key message is we don't need to have a behavioral patterns or
mm,
templates to achieve
mm,
um, career targets or our objectives in the
mm,
positions, or to become leaders. You can do it your own way, and it's okay, and it's actually helping for diversity, because we bring different ideas on the table, different
Yeah.
approaches, different ways to achieve the goals. So in the past, I believe, and I've been in the workspace professional life for quite a while. Um, in my head, I had some like that, like some behaviors which will lead you to the certain objectives to reach certain goals or certain positions.
Mm,
I think this is not the case today, and these messages and this has to be further vocalized, saying no behavioral templates are needed. You don't need to adapt
mm,
your who you are to be able to reach the level or the objective or the goal that you set for
mm,
yourself, or that the
yeah.
position sets in front of you. So you can do it in your own way, with your own style, with your own personality, and it's okay. And I think as long as the company allows this, as long as the company culture and the environment and also the male leaders in the company allow this,
Mm,
um, I think we are well off. And actually then there is no more question, are we being promoted because we are women? Because this like agenda is now, there are even targets and KPIs, etc. If I can do it my own way, I
mm.
don't have this feeling. So yeah.
Absolutely. Brilliantly said. And, um, couldn't have put it better. We touched a little bit on having male allies, and also, that kind of support, because it is a journey. And along the way, you need several partners. And I think male allies are quite strong, especially when they champion that sense of diversity, inclusion, and equality. What are your views on having male allies, whether in workplace or otherwise?
Extremely important, and I don't think it should even be pointed out as a special thing. It should become kind of a natural thing. Maybe still needs to be like more promoted, but um, my personal experiences, we don't need to talk about it. I feel it's out
Mm,
there. And I think they're like the formal promoters and allies
hmm,
and
hmm,
informal ones. And actually the formal ones are all well exposed, etc. And it would be coming from the the messaging out
mm,
clearly and putting some policies, etc. But then what really matters is this in informal way also
mm,
present. And I am lucky, and fortunate that actually I do have, for example, my line manager is very much my ally. And I would not necessarily say that it has anything to do with being a woman or not being, or
mm.
being a man. It's just that he's that kind of leader that will doesn't make that difference. And this is what I want to have. I don't want to be treated differently or supported differently because I'm a woman. I just want to
Absolutely.
see that I've been that the way the leadership style is,
Mm.
it doesn't make a difference between the two, and it allows us to be ourselves.
Absolutely. That makes two of us. I'm very lucky as well to have a manager, my direct line manager, who doesn't treat me differently because on the basis of gender. You're right. We all want ultimately to be, defined by, who we are and what our role is. Than anything else. So you make it's a very interesting take, on having the male allies. You don't really need to call it out. Actually, the awareness is there, and I think we just need to kind of build on it to progress and evolve. This year's theme for International Women's Day, which is breaking the bias. And Branka, you actually started this conversation by talking about biases and ultimately what that's the barrier we need to break. So, what does that kind of mean to you today and looking forward?
Yes, indeed. I think we start this conversation about bias. Which one? Because there are so many of them. And I think the key thing is actually that they don't go unnoticed. So
Mm, mm,
to start pointing out what are those biases that maybe go unnoticed, and we even don't realize them because it's normal, right? It's kind
mm,
of like, yeah,
mm,
it's always like this, so it's okay, it's normal. But actually, we should just stop and say, well, no, actually, it I didn't
mm,
like that, or it shouldn't
mm,
be like that. So maybe that it all starts with pointing out, especially the unnoticed biases
mhm,
that just go along because they have been there for decades or centuries
Yeah.
and to point them out, and that's a first step.
Absolutely. And I think with social media, the awareness is growing. So it is quite relevant. And I think we can say today, as empowered women, that we do have the platform to kind of break the bias, stop when you see something, call it out, and call out for change in behavior.
Yes, indeed. I think we
Yeah.
have many channels today,
Yeah.
and that are so available to everybody, and we can use them effectively. But for me, always a good conversation and support to each other is number one channel that I would use.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, just before we kind of wrap up, Branka, any word of advice? What would you say to women in the industry, in the workplace, aspiring women leaders? Your word of advice for them as we sign out.
You can achieve whatever you want. Just be brave and don't limit yourself. There we get so many imposed limitations. Don't make self-imposed limitations one of them.
Awesome. You do you, huh? That absolutely makes sense. Branka, thank you so much once again for taking the time to talk to me on the occasion of International Women's Day. I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation as always. And for the people who are listening in, we would definitely love to hear your thoughts. So please do connect with me, Mahalakshmi Srinivasan at Indicia Worldwide, and Branka Markovic at Nestrade via LinkedIn.